Hey everyone, it's your superpower kid, Neva Recla, and I'm very excited for today's interview. We are talking about mind magic for kids. Now, what does mind magic mean? Mind magic to me means pretty much having superpowers and being able to control your life, but in your own way. And it may mean something different for everyone, but I know that our guest today knows exactly what that's about. Her name is Suzy Prudden. We met at Bernie Dorman and September Dorman CEO Space about 8 years ago. She is so awesome. She was featured on Oprah. She is the co-founder and president for Itty Bitty Publishing, and people call her the Mind Magician. And she is just so amazing, and I'm very excited to have her on. So without further ado, will you help me welcome our guest, Suzy? Hi, Suzy.
Hi, Neva, and thank you for inviting me on your show.
Thank you so much for coming on.
It's a true honor. It really is.
Thank you.
And I have watched you, yes, for the last 8 years. And when I first met you at CEO Space, you were very tiny. And you had business cards. And you were giving everybody your business card. And I think there were like 300 people in the room at the time. You were just scooting around saying hello to everybody as if you were not, I think, 2 years old. It was wonderful. Yeah.
We have known each other for quite a while.
We've known each other, and then you and your mom and dad and I would always go out for dinner, I think Saturday or Sunday night when we were at CEO Space to this phenomenal steak restaurant in Las Vegas. And it was a tradition with us.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So, I already know that you have a lot of superpowers, and we've kind of already talked about it. But could you tell our guests what a few of your superpowers are?
Incredible self-confidence and belief in myself. And it's interesting how that is a superpower because I believe in myself, I can hear other people's belief or disbelief in themselves. And if they have a disbelief, I can help them learn to reframe that so that they can believe in themselves. Because in my mind, by believing in myself, I can do anything.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really good superpower to have because it's so important to believe in yourself, especially in life and especially in business, because it's very inspirational to other people if they have self-doubt. So I would say that it's really cool seeing people out there who can believe in themselves fully, and that shows other people that it's possible, so it's not as scary, you know?
Yeah, I get an idea, and then I do it.
Yeah.
I don't wait, because if I wait, it won't get done. And people have said to me, how can you just do what you do? And my attitude, how can I not do what I do?
Yeah.
You know, I've watched you, and you have total self-confidence. You know yourself. And when you have an idea, you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, it's a normal, natural thing. You get an idea and do it. For most people, they have to research and wait, and it doesn't get done. And so that is, I think that's the biggest superpower.
Yeah. I would say that it's a really good superpower to have, and most people have it. It's just they have to be able to show it, because some people, like deep down inside, everyone loves themselves and everybody is confident in themselves. But it can be really scary for some people.
Yes.
And I think that when there's people out there who can just fully believe in themselves, and like you said, take action when you get an idea, those are the people that are really inspirational, because then everyone starts doing it.
Right.
And it becomes normalized that everyone loves themselves and everyone believes in themselves. And they start taking action, which I think is really cool.
For people like you and me, we make it safe for other people to do what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think it, like you said, it makes it kind of safe for others. And I think that that's very, very true. Because I remember that when I was just getting started in business or mostly my podcast, it was really scary for myself. And because I would start I did what my mom did. So I would listen in on her podcast. And when I had an interview, I would go and I would say the exact same thing she would say. And I did that for like a year until I finally started getting self-confidence in it. And I think it also shows that, like, we're human. And not everybody's going to have full self-confidence immediately. And there will be challenges along the way, but it's like you have your mindset on it.
Right. And I'll tell you, my first career was teaching exercise, because my mother was the nation's foremost fitness authority. And you'll get a kick out of this. When I first started my exercise school, I played her exercise record. That's vinyl. That's how far it was back in 1965. So she was talking on the record with the music, and I was demonstrating her exercises. So just like you, I started by doing what my mother did, and then as I got more confident in my own abilities, I moved into my own programs.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes having people like that in your life to show you how to be yourself. Like, I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my parents showing me how to do business. Because I didn't know, and I wasn't going to know unless they taught me. And I wasn't going to know unless I asked the right questions. Which I think is also really important, is they taught me curiosity about things. So I find that being curious helps make it so you can discover who you truly are.
I agree, and it was interesting watching you as I watched you growing up, because you were never told, when I say you were never told no, you were probably told no about a certain amount of things, but when it came to learning or came to questions, your parents respected you completely. Mm-hmm. That whatever question you asked, you had the right to have the answer.
Yeah.
And that's a gift, because a lot of parents, they say you'll figure it out when you grow up. But no, you don't just figure it out. You do eventually, but how wonderful that you were given the gift of having that space opened up for you.
Yeah, I think that you're really right, that some parents don't really give their kids the chance to have the curiosity that all kids have. And I think that you're right on the sense of they've kind of shown me that, like you said, I have the right to have the answer.
Yeah.
But they've also taught me to be respectful in my questions. And that kind of shows me how I can start questioning myself. And I find that it's like, it kind of shows me how I can question my behavior. Maybe I wasn't the nicest over here, because they've given me the chance to kind of have that curiosity. It really gives me more freedom to experience who I really am, and gives me more freedom to grow, which I think is really important.
I do too. And you never stop growing.
That's very true. And I would actually love to keep talking about this more, because I think that having the freedom to grow is a huge part of mind magic. But we do have to take a quick break, so will you tell our listeners where they can go to find out more about you?
They can go to www.ititittypublishing.com.
Awesome. Definitely go check Suzy out, because she is so, so amazing. We've been talking with Suzy Prudden about mind magic for kids. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/the net to learn more.
Okay, we're back and we've been talking with Suzy Prudden about mind magic for kids. So before the break, we were talking about how my parents kind of give me the freedom to ask questions. And we're kind of talking about how important that is in mind magic and how it helps people have a chance to grow. And you said something that I really like is that you never stop growing. And I think that's really true because it kind of shows that everybody's evolving, but that kind of ties it back into my parents giving me the freedom to ask questions. So I think it's really cool that you said that because it's really true. No.
Well, it's also, Neva, it's also that people my age, I'm 76, very often stop asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that because they're quote unquote older, that they're kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to a lot of seminars and a lot of workshops, and I've actually had people come up to me and say, isn't it wonderful that you're still at 76? It's almost patronizing. And I'm sure it happens to you too from the opposite end. Because you're 9 now, right?
I'm 10.
You're 10. You're double digits. So you're 10, and people will condescend to you saying, well, you're 10, and isn't it sweet that you are this incredibly smart, you're asking questions. On the other side, I'm 76. When people condescend, say, oh, it's so remarkable that you're still asking questions. But questions are important, and they create magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really true because without questions, it'd be really hard to have magic because how are you supposed to know what it is? And like in business, how are you supposed to know how to do business if you don't ask the questions to get you there?
You have to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to do it by yourself and you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to make it. You need a team as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's important to ask your team questions so that they can give you input so that you can move your business forward. Yeah. And it's also important to be open to saying, I don't know that. And so tell me so I can learn, so I can continue, as we said earlier, to grow. Because life ends for you when you stop growing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's also being willing to grow because you're asking questions.
Yeah.
And also, like something I do is I don't understand every single word everyone says. So, like earlier today, I was on an interview. Someone was interviewing me and he asked me a question and I didn't really understand what he said. So I said, will you please reframe that for me? And that's how I ask people so I can still learn about it while putting it into my language so I can understand it. But then, oh, look, now I understand this new word because they said this.
Right.
So it's really awesome. And some of my advice is like, for all of you out there, find that question for yourself. So if you don't understand something, find a way to ask somebody about it. And find a way that you can keep growing by learning everything. And you're learning something new.
The way I do it, Neva, because still have situations where someone will ask me something or say something to me and I don't have a clue what they've just said. I like the way you said, could you reframe that for me? What I'll do very often is say, could you ask me that differently?
Mm-hmm.
So that because I'm not understanding the language, even though we're speaking the same language, I'm not understanding the language you're using to ask me that. So can you ask me differently? And what used to happen, was working with a friend of mine, we were working on a book, and she'd say something to me and I wouldn't understand what she said, and I said, could you say that differently? So she would say it louder. I'd say, no, not louder, different words. And then she would say it louder. And I said, no, I heard you. I just don't understand the words you're using. And finally she'd go, oh. But she didn't understand that I didn't understand. It was very funny. Eventually she learned how to speak to me. So I could understand her.
Yeah. And that shows that we're always growing. And we keep on going back to this, but it's having the right questions is, in my opinion, what helps you grow. And like you said, when you stop growing, that's like when life stops. And I feel like that's true because if you stop asking questions, then I feel like you kind of lose your kid side for a little bit. And without questions, you kind of lose your curiosity. So that's why it's so important to ask questions and have fun with it too.
And some people will say, I'm going to ask a stupid question. And I always say, the only stupid question there is the one that is not asked.
Yeah.
There is no stupid question.
Yeah. It's like, because that's the part of curiosity, is that it's always going to come up. You're always going to be curious about something. And you're not wrong for being curious. You know, nobody is wrong for being curious. So I like how you said that it's the most important question is the ones that are being asked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if they're not being asked, they're not important. And they're obviously still important, but if they're not being asked, nobody can answer them.
No one can answer. Yes. Yeah. And people very often don't ask questions because they're afraid of being made a fool, that their question is stupid. But as I said, the only stupid question there is the one that is not asked. Because if I'm in a room with 50 people and I have a question, there's at least 10 other people who have that same question, who just aren't asking it. And the other thing that's important is if someone uses a word that you don't understand, I say, could you give me the definition of that word because I don't understand it? And it's not stupid for me not to understand a word because I just don't understand that word. But it would be ridiculous if I didn't say, I need to know what that word means if I'm going to be able to communicate with you.
Yeah, I agree. Something I do is I'll be talking to my friends, and let's say we're at a business conference, and I'm hanging out with my friends, and we're talking about what the speaker is saying. And if they go, well, this would be an interesting question, sometimes I'll go, then ask it. And they'll go, well, no, because I don't want to interrupt them. Like, ask the question.
Ask the question.
So then what I do is I go, excuse me, and I ask the question. And, or like, I find that I'm sometimes the more dominant one in my friend groups. So if my other friends don't want to ask a question, even if it's like at a restaurant, and let's say the waitress forgot avocado on their salad. Sometimes I have friends that won't even ask for a simple slice of avocado to go with their salad because they're scared. Then I go, excuse me, can we get some more avocado? And so I find that if you're not the one asking questions, somebody around you will, and they're going to take action. And
hopefully,
yeah. So that's why it's so important to ask your questions so you're not relying on someone else to do it for you.
Yes.
Because most of the time people won't.
Well, they're afraid. I mean, and it doesn't stop when you grow up. Because even people my age, if someone brings them something at a restaurant that is not okay, very often people will eat it anyway just because they don't send it back. But I'll send it back. And they'll go, "You're sending that back?" I said, "Yeah, it's disgusting. And I won't pay for it. And because if it's not good, you don't have to pay for it." But a lot of people are afraid to do that. And it's, again, you've been given a lot of permission to be completely who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real gift. And I claimed who I am just because that's, I guess, my personality. But in my peer group, a lot of people won't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I would say I'm pretty similar.
Yes. That's why we like each other.
That's true. Because, like I said, I'm usually the dominant one in my friend groups. And I feel like that's a gift because I get to help so many people.
It is a gift.
And sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm tired of it. But most of the time, there is, like, a huge reason why I'm there, I feel like. And there's a huge reason that everybody has their, like, part in the friend group. So I typically say I'm either the dominant one or I'm the mama bear. And I'm typically the youngest one in my friend groups.
I can see that. I'm the oldest right now.
Yeah. But, for example, we were at CEO Space, and they were doing the teen program. So know what I did? I went to the cafe, and I got a couple of apples and a couple of granola bars and Nutella packets, and I shoved them in my backpack. So that way, all of the teen group and I wouldn't get hungry.
That was smart.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how I call myself the mama bear. And so I feel like that's also a big part about being curious is finding who you are. And then I feel like you have so much more room to be curious.
Finding who you are and then owning it. Not being afraid of being who you are.
Yeah.
Because I'm very polarizing. People really like me or they really don't. And I'm okay either way. And I find that that's a real gift because then I don't get upset. I mean, I don't like it if someone doesn't like me, but it's like that's their issue, not mine.
Yeah. It's a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise?
Yep.
Yeah. So I people see themselves in each other. And so those people who see something that they don't like in me, that's something that they have to deal with within themselves.
Yeah.
And people who do see things that they like in me, that's something that they have inside of themselves. Yeah. And when you talk about magic, we've all got it. We just have to ask.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is what I want to create today. How do I do it? And then the answers come.
Yeah. I definitely see that being true. That happens to me all the time. Which I do want to tell you about, but I do want to do funny FaceTime while I'm thinking about it because it's a lot of fun and I feel like we're in the fun FaceTime mood. So we get to make our funniest faces with Teddy and we're going to make them in 3 seconds. Are you ready?
Okay.
3. Ready?
Show me a funny face. Okay. All right.
3, 2, 1.
Want to put funny face? Is it okay?
That's a good funny face.
Okay.
Yeah.
The monkey
Any funny face can be a funny face. That's also a good funny face. So, what some of my superpowers is what I would call them is I have visions. So I can see things and I see energy and I see spirits. And something I do at nighttime is because I know that that's part of my magic. That's a part of who I am. But sometimes I don't like seeing spirits. Sometimes I don't like seeing energy because typically I find that spirits and stuff come to me when I'm most available or sometimes when I need it most, when I need a spirit guide. But sometimes they'll come to me at night. And I don't like seeing spirits and stuff at night because I'm trying to go to sleep.
Right.
So something I do is if I feel I've gotten really in tune with it now. So if I feel that there's like a spirit or something in my room, my dog even senses it. She's very protective of my mom. My mom has dragons, and she'll start barking at the dragons because she doesn't like them. So I typically notice that my dog senses them. So then I just kind of ask the spirits to please don't come. And I kind of say a prayer that when I'm trying to go to sleep, please don't come to me. And I want to not see energy. And then when I'm ready, I'll let you know. And that's kind of my way of controlling my magic. And it's not that I need to control it, but I'm asking the questions. And that's something that's really important.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, and it's important, Neva, what you just said, because there are a lot of people who will see a spirit and get scared. But if you say, please don't come to me at this time, they will respect you, and because you are of the light. And when you say, I am of the light, respect me, and let me go to sleep, and I'll talk to you in the morning.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
I'll see you later.
And it's like you've earned that respect now because you've claimed it. And want to hear a quick spirit story?
Sure.
So when I was really younger, I say that and I'm 10, but when I was really, really little, I would see spirits and I'd get really scared of them. But this was about 2 years ago, I think. And I had this spirit and I had sensed it. But this spirit was doing this thing where it would come into my body type thing. So I would try to feel what it was like being a human. And I would feel my arm twitching and I'd be like, will you please not? And
right.
then I'd just have these conversations with the spirit and I'd go, why are you doing this? And then I'd hear no response. So I'd center in, why are you in my body right now? And then I would hear, because I'm trying to feel what it's like to be a human again. And I went, I'm good. And I noticed I got really scared because why is the spirit lurking around me without my permission? And so after a while, I was like, okay, I'll make an agreement. You can stay with me for today, but tonight you are leaving. And so that's what happened. But then the spirit came back the next day. So then I told my parents about it. And then we did something about it. And I just kind of said, spirit, I'm good. You can find someone else. And then they left. But I find that you have to have the power to ask. And something that's really important, especially with energy and spirits, I find that especially if it's a spirit who's previously been a human, I find that typically they're a little bit more mischievous, which then you have to ask a little bit more. But if you don't get afraid, it works really well.
That's the piece. If you don't get afraid.
Because they'll stay if you get afraid.
Pardon me? Then they feel that they have control over you. And when you don't get afraid, because I was sitting at dinner one night. I was in Hawaii, and I was sitting at dinner one night in this beautiful restaurant outdoors, and all of a sudden I felt this energy coming up my body, and it was a very dark energy, and it's moving up my body, and all of a sudden I am completely, there's somebody in here. And my friend who I was having dinner with looked at me and said, it's so amazing. She goes, who's here? Because she could see it inside of me. My eyes changed. And I wasn't scared. All I said was, I don't know. And because I was not afraid, I then felt the energy leaving my body until I was myself again. But it was really in there and I was not afraid. Had I been afraid, then they lock in.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to like hold your ground.
Always.
And they're smart. They will know when you're afraid.
Oh, sure.
And that's when they take control of you.
Yeah.
And it may seem scary. And when I was younger, if I had a spirit, like when I was around the age that I finally started understanding it, I always understood it, but when I was around the age that the fear started kicking in, it was really scary for me. Like I couldn't walk down the dark hallway. I'd have a flashlight or I had to turn the light on. Because I would see spirits.
Yeah.
And then, but when I was really little, I had like, I believe it was an archangel or someone who would play in my dollhouse with me. I had this dollhouse and he would come and play with me. Or here's another quick story. My dad was in Afghanistan at the time, and my mom and I were hanging out at our house, and I had these beings called the white people. And there was these group of 4 people who would hang out with me, and they were just like kind of my little buds. And my mom wanted me to put up my shoes. And I go, I don't want to put up my shoes. She goes, will you please put up your shoes? And then I go, no. And then I start listening. I go, yeah, okay. Mom, I'm sorry. I'll go put up my shoes. And she goes, who are you talking to? And I go, oh, they're the white people. She's like, okay. And then she talked to them. And she was like, what are you about? And she did her due diligence on that. And then a couple years later, I was in my bedroom. And I had just fallen asleep, and I woke up to hearing whispers in my room. And I hear a bunch of talking and all that. I don't know if I was in another dimension or what was happening. But then I wake up, and I sit up, and then there's these 4 people, and they're like mad scientists. Like they had their hair all puffy, and then they had their goggles on and stuff. They're all whispering, and then they're staring at me. When I sit up, they just go, and they're all just staring at me. And then I go, and then I hide under my covers because there's just these beings staring at me.
Right.
But then a little while after, I tell my mom about it. I tell my mom the next morning, and I explain what they look like. And she goes, I bet they're the white people. And I go, who are that? Who are those people? And she goes, oh, they were your friends when you were younger. So now I can call on them whenever I want because they found me.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
That is so great.
Yeah. And I think that that's the power of not being afraid. And,
yes.
And also, spirits look different. Sometimes, like we had this group come to us that was called Love. And they were like this group of different like spirits from like a whole nother dimension, pretty much. And I got a vision from them, and it really scared me at first. But then I realized that they weren't scary, that they were actually there to like help us and protect us. But then now I can call on them. And so I think that's the big power of holding your ground and asking the right questions. And
as you said, not being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And allowing the information that is being presented to you to look at it and to weigh whether is this something that is right for me or if this is something that is wrong for me. And if it's wrong for me, I need to be able to, as you say, stand my ground and say, this is not right for me.
Yeah. And I really liked your story, that especially that your friend was there and like your friend could help you and that you weren't afraid of it. Because
it wasn't scary. It was just weird.
Yeah.
It was, and it was what was so interesting, Neva, was it was a really dark energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found interesting in myself was that I was not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It was just all of a sudden, it's like, oh my goodness, something's taken over. And do you know why they call alcohol spirits?
Mm-mm.
Now, this is funny because spirits, as in the spirits that you're talking about and that I'm talking about, are always looking for people that they can spend time in.
Yeah.
And when people go to bars and drink alcohol, they're drinking spirits. It's called spirits. It's because when they've had alcohol in their system, they are open to being available for the spirit to enter the body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they call it spirit. So very often when people drink too much, then they can't control the spirit that is in them.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense because it gives the spirit more time.
Right.
And also
more access.
Yeah, more access, and they're more able to come in.
Right.
And some people could turn it into like, oh my goodness, they're like possessing you, they're taking over. And that's, in my opinion, it's not true. In my opinion, it's just like this curious little spirit coming in, trying to experience what it's like. And even when I had that experience, I was somehow able, even though it was weird and it was like, I'm not like twitching my arm, but it's moving. And it was still weird, but I was able to talk to it. And I said, why are you here? Why me? And they said, I want to know what it's like to be a kid again. And then I was like, wait, you were like a human at one point? And he was like, yeah. And I just had this conversation with the spirit, and it was a little bit odd.
It is odd, but it's okay.
Yeah, and it's okay. And, well, it's not okay that, like, they're just coming in without asking.
No, that's not okay.
That's not okay. But it's the experience that when you're holding your ground, that is. And I feel like that is the part that's really important.
Yes, and that's a very good point because you talk about kids in business. And when you're in business, you have to hold your ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so as an adult, it generally gets easier, but a lot of people still can't. As a kid, for a lot of kids, they don't quite know how to do that. You've mastered that. And so when I think of what kind of message can I give kids who are going into business, is to learn the technique of holding your ground, of asking questions and understanding that there is magic.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. That is really good advice, and I feel like it doesn't have to be spirits for you to have magic.
No.
It doesn't have to be. It can be business. It can be just being yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and I don't feel it, I know it, we all have superpowers.
Yes.
And we can all definitely change the world.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we have to believe it. I think we have to act on it. And I think we have to claim our own individuality and claim our individuality within a group, so that we are a tribe. Yeah. At CEO space, it's a tribe. It's a group of people.
It's a tribe.
Yeah.
And it's like a family.
Yep.
And that's find your tribe is my advice. Now, we do have to wrap up. And I feel like we've had a great conversation about talking about magic and talking about how we all have it.
Right.
And how you just have to claim who you are without being afraid of it.
Yep.
Now, do you have any last advice before we wrap up?
Trust that you are here for a purpose. Trust yourself to make a decision, and sometimes just making a decision is the most important thing you can do. Whether it's a right decision or a wrong decision, make a decision.
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong decision, then make another decision. It's like, just change your mind. But claim who you are, and trust yourself.
Yeah.
And create friends in your life like Neva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thank you for that. I would definitely say trust as well.
Mm-hmm.
And trust yourself, trust in the divine, trust in just trust. And you'll get so many places by asking questions and by trusting.
Yes.
So, will you remind our listeners where they can go to find out more about you?
Go to ITTY, Bitty, BITTY, publishing.com. I do publish itty bitty books. I publish legacy books, and I publish children's books, and I'm about to start a university. And I think that, Neva, we should talk about that offline and see how you can run the kids portion of our itty bitty university. We're going to have all of our authors giving their information. That's ittybittypublishing.com. You can see my TED Talk and the things that I've done and how you can participate in what I'm doing going forward.
Awesome. And definitely go check her out and definitely participate in what she's doing because Suzy is so, so awesome. We've been talking with Suzy Prudden about mind magic for kids. Suzy is so amazing and she is definitely a great friend. So, like I said, go check her out, go support her. And Suzy, thank you again for coming on. Kids, remember that we all have superpowers and we can change the world by being ourselves. Bye.
Bye.